Hey guys. So I know that there's been a lot of confusion going on, and there's probably some of you who are wondering what happened when Laura left for a conference on May 29th and never returned, and now it's June 23rd. And not only that, but she also never made it to the conference. And I'm really bad at keeping people updated on what's going on and what's happening. So I thought I would put together this video to explain what's going on. Also, because I don't know when I'm going to be back and when I'm actually going to be able to explain this to anyone in person. And I just suck at updating people and keeping people posted on what's happening. So I just really want everyone to be able to see what's going on. For anybody who's interested, I guess. If you're not interested, then you don't need to watch this movie. So, back on May 29th, I hopped on a plane to go to Ontario for the Canadian Federation of Students conference. And I requested to go a day earlier, like a night earlier or something, to hang out with my mom and dad in Ottawa. And I got off the plane, it was like midnight, and I got off and I was like, yo, Mom and Dad, what's up? Haven't seen you for like 5 years. Let's eat strawberries together. And then we ate strawberries. And I went to bed and found out that there was a meeting the next afternoon, Wednesday. But I woke up on Wednesday morning at about 10 a.m. throwing up uncontrollably about every 20 minutes, sleeping in between vomits, and then vomiting in between vomits for right until Thursday morning, I guess at about 5 a.m. In hopes that I could just head out to the conference and meet up with everyone on the second day. No big deal or anything, but instead I woke up thinking I was going to throw up, and I managed to like hobble down the stairs because I was going to be like, Mom, I'm still throwing up, I guess. And I got down the first flight of stairs, and then I fell over in like copious amounts of crippling pain, and couldn't move. I couldn't lift myself up. I couldn't walk. I could barely talk, actually. And I knew my mom was in the basement, so I kind of like started like knocking on the wall, hoping that she'd think it was someone at the door to like answer the door. And then I had like my barf bucket like cradled in my arms, and I was like lying on the ground trying to call her name, but I couldn't really talk, so I was like from like the floor on the main hall. So eventually she came upstairs, just because she was heading upstairs actually, and she found me there, and she was like, what the hell's going on? And I was like, I can't get up, and it was all messed up and stuff on the ground. And and my mom runs downstairs and starts looking stuff up on the computer to figure out what's going on, and she's like, oh, if it's the right side of her body, maybe it's her appendix. And so she kind of like tries to kind of roll me onto my side, which didn't really work, and she's like poking around and kills, and I was screaming and like I'm dying or something. And she's like, oh no, it's probably your appendix. So she tries to get me up, which doesn't work. So Dad comes downstairs and he was gonna head to work, but my mom was like, oh, maybe you should take her to the hospital because I have to go play tennis. They tried to get me to stand up, and I couldn't stand up, so they like kind of lifted me and like carried me and kind of like half danced with me, and they're like, should we get an ambulance? And I was like, I don't know, in BC it costs $40,000 for an ambulance, so no, let's just go in the car. So they carried me out to the car, and we went down to the hospital, where I sat for a really long time, throwing up and shaking in pain. And yeah, I was in like so much pain. I was like hyperventilating, and when you hyperventilate, apparently all your appendages go numb. So like my arms are like numb, my legs are numb, and I was like freaking out. I'm like kind of shaking and like slightly convulsing in so much pain. I couldn't go to the washroom, and like everything hurt, and it just kind of sucked. And then they're like, we're gonna take your blood, and I was like, Dad, don't look, you're afraid of needles. I'm afraid of needles. And we were both like, whoa. And they took my blood, and they're like, oh, we need a urine sample. And I was like, I can't do that because it hurts to go to the bathroom. So eventually they got in they hooked me up to an IV, and then they're like, oh, it seems like you're in a lot of pain, so they gave me morphine shots and stuff, which made me pass out, and heavy, like, feels like lead in the back of your head just, like, explodes, and then you die a little bit. So, and they kept giving me that, and they tried to give me all these painkillers and stuff, but that kind of worked. Then we sat there for a long time, and Dad was like reading, and Mom came and visited, and we sat longer, I guess. Still hooked up to an IV. I was like sad because I couldn't eat and I couldn't drink, and I kind of sucked. And then they brought me over to get an ultrasound done so they could see what's going on, because they were like poking around, and they're like, it hurts a lot, so we'll do an ultrasound and see what's going on. So they did an ultrasound, and then they took my blood, and my like white blood cell count was like 22 or something, and normally I guess it's like 7, so which means there's an infection, so my body was trying to like fight it off. So we did the ultrasound, and then they told me that they were gonna keep me there overnight and keep an eye on me, and a surgeon came in and was like poking around my stomach, and it hurt a lot, and he was like, well, it could be your appendix, or it could also not be your appendix. We could like put a camera, this is the way he said it, we could put a camera in your belly and look around. If it is your appendix, then just take it out and you'll be good, and then you'll just have to recover from the surgery. If it's not your appendix, though, we're going to take it out anyway, because we're going inside you, so we might as well take it out. And he's like, so you can either go for it tonight at midnight, or we could like wait overnight and have you hooked up to like painkillers and I guess an antibiotic maybe, like anti-inflammatories, and just see how you're doing in the morning. We were like, unnecessary surgery, maybe we shouldn't, and they came back with the, well, we can't see your appendix because it's like hiding, but your lymph nodes in your stomach are swollen, and that can sometimes happen if you have an infection and your body tries to fight it off. It'll just go straight to your lymph nodes, and they're like, it could mimic the symptoms of appendicitis, so maybe that's what it is. So we'll keep you here overnight, and we'll keep you hooked up to this machine, and then we'll see how you're doing in the morning. So they did. They kept me there overnight, and I passed out. I was out so hard, like ridiculous, and they woke me up, and then the surgeon came in, like my mom and dad were there, and the surgeon came in, and he's like, hey, so like oh yeah, they took a blood sample, so your white blood cell count like is down, kind of, so I guess it's battling the infection, so like when you're feeling good, you can go home, we don't need to do the surgery, just take some ibuprofen, because that's anti-inflammatory, and so it'll like make your lymph nodes go down, and you'll be good, and then you don't have to do surgery. And we're like, okay, cool. And Mom was like, do you feel better? And I was like, no, not really. And they were like, oh, well, let's go home, because why not? So we went home, and then that night really hurt, and I was like lying on the bed, like couldn't move, kind of sucked, and my mom gave me like a Aleve or ibuprofen or something, and just like, oh, anti-inflammatory, that'll work. So it kind of did, I guess. And I was so excited to be able to eat, because I couldn't eat when I was in the hospital for like that 2 days or whatever. So I was really excited to eat, but like I couldn't really. So I'd be like, full dinner, and like eat like 2 bites and be full, and couldn't really do it. And then I was like, I'm good. I'll go to Dad's baseball game, and like went to Dad's baseball game all hunky-dory, and like talked to his friends, and I was like, yeah, they wanted to take my appendix out, but they didn't, because it turns out it's okay, the appendix has no issues. And so then I was supposed to go home on the Sunday, but they were like, oh, maybe we'll keep you, until Wednesday, just to make sure you get better. And I was like, yeah, okay. So we changed the flight to Wednesday, and then I kind of like didn't get better. It just kind of got the same. At first we were like, hey, I can move my arm, so that's good. And then I was like, look at me, I can sit up by myself, this is good. And we're like on the road to recovery. And I updated Facebook, and I was like, hey guys, on the road to recovery, see y'all soon. And then I woke up Wednesday morning when my flight was supposed to be, and I was like, I'm gonna pack. No, I went downstairs and I threw up again. So we hopped in the car when I threw up again, and my mom brought me back to the hospital, where I threw up some more right in front of the registration ladies. They're like, oh, time to register, what's your name? And I was like, thrown up into this like kidney dish or vomit bag or something. And then they hooked me up to another IV. It was really annoying the second time, because they went in on my left arm to take blood, and they were going to take blood and then put the IV pick in. And they took blood, and then they couldn't find the veins. They're like digging around with the IV pick, trying to like figure out where it was. And they're like, "Oh, we can't find it. We'll put it in your right arm." Or I think actually they let it go, and they were like, "We'll just leave it for now." So they didn't hook me up to the machine. So I just kind of sat there, not hooked up to a machine, and not being able to eat or drink, and just like in pain again, which sucked. And we just kind of waited. And then a new surgeon came in, and her name was Andrea, and she came in and she kind of like poked around, and she was like, "Oh, this does feel like appendicitis."